Hey y'all, it's Miss A. Today we are going to be reviewing how to simplify, or you might call it reducing, fractions. When we do this, when we were taught how to do it, we were taught to find a common factor that, in this case, 12 and 16 both had in common, and then we would divide by that common factor. One tool that we're going to use today, and I encourage you to use a lot, especially if you don't already know how to simplify fractions, but it is our multiplication chart. Our multiplication chart is a great tool to help us reduce or simplify given fractions. So I'm going to show you how to use it today. All right, so our first fraction is 12/16. So if we were doing this the traditional way, we would find a common factor. I know because both numbers are even, 12 and 16 are both even, I know I can divide it by 2, but I can also divide it by 4. Some of y'all just struggle seeing that common factor, and that's okay, So I'm going to show you how to use the multiplication chart, and then I'm going to show you the traditional way. So to use our multiplication chart, we're going to find this fraction, 12/16, somewhere on top of each other. They have to be in the same column. I cannot use 12 here and then 16 over here, because they're not directly on top of each other in the same column. But I could use 12 and 16 here, or I could use 12 and 16 here. Now you want to be careful when there's multiple places that it occurs. You want to make sure you pick the one that is closest together. If they're spaced out, that means it's going to have to be simplified again. So right here we have them directly on top of each other. So all we're going to do to simplify 12/16 is we find it here, and then we're going to move directly all the way over to the left. So 12/16 goes all the way to the left and reduces down to 3/4. Okay, so we have 12 and 16. 12 reduces to 3, and 16 reduces to 4. So our simplified fraction is 3/4. It's that simple, guys. That simple. The multiplication chart does the hard part for you. Now, I did tell you I was going to show you the traditional method. So if we had the fraction 12/16, and I saw, okay, they're both even, so I know I could divide both numbers by 2. 12 divided by 2 will get me 6. 16 divided by 2 will get me 8. But notice these answers are not the same, because this can be simplified again by 2, because they're both even. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And now we have that same equivalent fraction. Now, I also could have just reduced it by 4, because the greatest common factor was actually 4. But some of y'all, 2 is a good starting point. 2 cuts your numbers in half, makes it easier to look at. Okay, so that's a good starting point always, if they're both even. All right, the next one is 8/32. So we're going to use our multiplication chart for this one. We're going to find 8 and 32 in the same column. All right, so I have an 8 and a 32 right here. Now they are spaced out, and that's okay. If I look, I'm not going to find them any closer. There's an 8 and a 32 here, but they're even more spaced out than those. This one doesn't even go to 32, this column. So the closest we're going to find is right here in the 8 column. And that's fine to use those. They can be spaced out as long as they're on top of each other. So 8 is going to reduce all the way down to 1. And then 32 will reduce all the way down to 4. So 8 goes to 1, 32 goes to 4. So our simplified fraction is 1/4. Again, what we just did was take that fraction of 8/32. We divided it by the common factor of 8 in this case. We could have chose 4 or 2, but I would have had to do it multiple times. The greatest common factor was 8. 8 divided by 8 will get me 1. 32 divided by 8 will get me 4. So there's the same. Again, some of you probably already know this method, and that's perfectly fine. This is just an extra way. Multiplication chart is an extra resource to use. All right, and then number 3, we have 10/25. Now, on this previous one, y'all might have said, okay, they're even, so I can divide by 2. But we cannot divide by 2 here because 25 is an odd number. You cannot divide by 2 when there's an odd number, only even. So I'm going to show you what we can do for that. But first, of course, let's use our multiplication chart. We're looking for 10/25. So 10 and 25 are right here. So 10 reduces down to 2, and 25 reduces down to 5. So 2 over 5. And there's our simplified fraction. Another thing we could have done was, okay, we can't divide it by 2 because they're not both even, but I could divide them both by 5. When both numbers, when the numerator and denominator both end in a 5 or a 0, you can automatically divide it by 5. They have a common factor of 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So there's the same. Oh, and I forgot to mention, make sure you're taking notes over this and show me a picture, either show me on Zoom or send me a picture in my email so you can get a free 100 for these notes. All right, and then the last two we're going to do are a little bit different. We have this fraction and we want to come up with an equivalent fraction with a new denominator. So we've actually done this in class when we are solving proportions, but I'm going to show you how to use your multiplication chart. I'm going to show you both ways, of course. So 3 over 7 is my fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find 3 over 7 over here on the left side of my chart. So 3 and 7 are here, and put a little dot so it's a little bit easier to look at right now. 3 over 7 is right here. And all we're going to do is we're going to go over until we get the 7 to become a 21. So the 7, if we move it 3 times, it becomes a 21. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to move 3 times the 3. So 1, 2, 3, and we get 9. So x equals 9. 3/7 is equal to 9 over 21. Now an alternative to this, what we could have done was 3 over 7 equals x over 21. And I could have recognized, okay, that I know that 7 times 3. So 7 times 1, 2, 3 is 21. In order to keep it equivalent, I have to do the same exact thing here on top. So multiply by 3, multiply by 3. 3 times 3 gets me my answer of 9. So we're just solving for that missing variable. All right, and number 5, we have 7/8 equals x over 48. So again, we could use our multiplication chart. We're looking for the fraction 7 over 8 on the left side, which is right here, 7 over 8. And then we're going to go over until we get the denominator to become 48. So we move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to move this one over 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we get x equals 42. Again, we could have done it 7 over 8 equals x over 48. And we could have recognized that 8 times, so again, if you don't know that, you just go here, 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's why I moved over 6 times earlier. 8 times 6 is 48. So 7 times 6 will get me my answer of 42. And again, if you didn't know that 7 times 6 is 42, you would just go to your 7s and go down 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you get the answer of 42. And that's it, guys. So all we're doing today is we are simplifying fractions using our multiplication chart, or coming up with an equivalent fraction, again, using our multiplication chart. Or if you can find that common factor or that multiple that will get you that new denominator, that's another way you can do it as well. If y'all have any questions over this, please feel free to join me on Zoom so you can ask me a question. If you're here in class with me, just ask me a question yourself. Hopefully y'all found this easy. We will be doing this in class when we're multiplying and dividing fractions. We always have to simplify our answers. So let me know if y'all need any help. If not, y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.